Hi, this is Matt Sibert, and I'm joined with my co-host Aaron Nosbisch.
Hey
We're
guys.
Symbio Cannabis Consulting, and this is our second podcast. Today we're going to be talking about a bunch of different topics, important KPIs for e-commerce, what KPIs to look for, influencer marketing, and a three-pronged approach to that, plus ads, supplier and packaging, FDA compliance, and retail strategy. So we're going to go over a bunch of things. And Symbio Cannabis Consulting, we specialize in helping cannabis and CBD companies build, scale, and exit. So that's all we do all day long. And we are happy to be here with you. And so we'll jump right into it. And Aaron, so first we're going to talk about KPIs. And for those that don't know, it's key performance indicators is
Yes,
what
sir.
KPI stands for. And so Aaron has a high level of expertise in direct to consumer e-commerce advertising and the whole experience of direct to consumer. And so what would you say are the most important KPIs to look for with your website and your e-commerce?
Ooh, that's a really good question. But I'm gonna start by saying, "Happy birthday, Matt!" Woo! For those of you who don't know, today is Matt's birthday, and we're having an awesome time over here. But I wanted to start with saying happy birthday, man. It's an
Thanks.
honor to be your partner, and I'm excited to be in business together.
I appreciate that, man. I'm happy to be your partner as well. You know that, and it's going to be a huge year, so I'm excited, man. Thank you
Heck
for
yeah,
that.
man. Heck yeah. Okay, I'll answer your question. Important KPIs, right? So like Matt said, KPIs means key performance indicator. And what you're looking for is in any business, but especially e-commerce businesses, you're looking for what are the very specific indicators that dictate the performance of your company, thus key performance indicators. When you're doing direct to consumer e-commerce, I look for a handful of them, but let's start listing out a few. The first one would be average order value, or AOV. This is a really important one because when you're acquiring customers on an e-commerce game, you're really acquiring orders more than you're acquiring customers. Customers are going to order different amounts of products at different time. So when they order something on your website, you want to get an idea of what is the average value per order on your website. So that's the first one, AOV.
What would you say is a good AOV to shoot for with a CBD company?
Totally. And this ranges whenever you go through like conversion rate optimizations. A lot of guys, like, their whole career is dedicated to just optimizing for conversion and increasing the AOV. It ranges depending on your prices, but it should be more than your core offering, right? So if you have a $69 $1,500 milligram or 1,000 milligram vial, but you also have 10 other products on your website, your AOV should be more than the main product that you sell. So and typically, you kind of break this down, people often buy more than one product when they're checking out. And so when you divide your total number of orders by what products they purchase, you get that kind of that AOV. So for a $69 core product, you should probably be looking for an AOV anywhere from 75 to 115. But it really ranges completely dependent on kind of the SKUs you have.
Nice.
But
Yeah, I remember when we had our brand Hemp Logica, we had $120 average order value. And I thought that was great. And then I called my friend Nancy, who owns Sarah Labs, and I was like, what's your AOV? And she was like 190. I was like, dang. And I think it might have even been more, but I think it was 190. Hey, Nancy. But yeah, and that was a while back. It's probably even higher now for her.
that's great. That's really huge. Well, totally. And the reason AOV is important, right, is because like you have the second really important KPI, I think, which is people use different abbreviations for this one, but the one I use is CPA, cost per acquisition, right? So if I have to acquire an order, I need to know the cost, and then you have the AOV, right? And like you said, 190 or 120. So if you have $120 average order value, you can pay less money to acquire a customer than you could if you had 190 average order value. And this is why people really get so focused on it in the CBD spaces, because if you can pay more to acquire the customer, or rather, here's a way to say this that a marketer once told me, is he who can pay the most to acquire a customer wins.
Yeah, exactly. And that's very true in the cannabis industry, 100%. Like probably all industries, but especially in the cannabis industry. I've always said that whoever has the most money wins pretty
Yeah.
much.
It's a market share game in a lot of places. And, there's other ways to do it. A lot of, what we preach with branding is there's a lot of opportunity to differentiate and kind of really set yourself apart. But a lot of these guys, some of the big players, I would say at least 50%, they're winning because they're losing money,
Yeah.
not because they're necessarily doing that super well.
Yeah.
But it works. And so at AOV, CPA, those are really critical ones. Another one I really like is LTV, lifetime value. Other people call this CLV, customer lifetime value. And what lifetime value is, once you have paid to acquire a customer, let's say paying to acquire a customer costs $20, right? And it can range from anywhere from $10 or $5 to $150, depending on your AOV or your
Yeah.
core offerings. But the question becomes, how long is that customer going to remain a customer, and how frequently and how much are they going to buy during their life cycle as a customer of yours? This is specifically really important with subscription companies, because subscription companies, they have a month-to-month reoccurring revenue, or people call this monthly reoccurring revenue, which you want to start calculating how many months is my subscriber going to stay as a subscriber? How much is it going to cost me to acquire a new subscriber? And how much is going to be the average order value per month? So for instance, let's do some quick math. If I paid $100, right? My CPA is $100 to acquire a new subscriber. That subscriber average order value is $150. I've made $50,
Yeah.
right? But let's say that the life cycle of that customer is 6 months. So that would be 6 times 150, leading me to a $900 LTV. You guys see, I think you see that obviously.
Yeah,
But
because usually, like, if you're working with an affiliate, you're only paying on that first sale to the affiliate, right? And then after that, you own that customer. So then you're making more of a margin on those sales thereafter. So if you have a long lifetime value with customers and you know that, then you're willing to pay more upfront for that first sale.
Exactly. So in reality, rather than paying $100 to acquire a $150 customer, I'm paying $100 to acquire a $900 value customer, leaving me at a $800 profit margin.
Yeah, that's like that company Proactive, the skincare company. I think they don't even make a profit until like 18 months into the life cycle or something crazy like that, because they know their lifetime value.
Can you hear me, Matt?
Oh,
There
there
we
we
go.
go. Sorry.
Yeah, Proactive. They were kind of the early OGs. You were saying that they don't really make a profit until when?
I think it's like 12 to 18 months into the
Wow.
customer journey. I don't know if that's exact, but it's a really long time, but they know that the customer is going to be with them for a long time. So they know their numbers.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, that's super interesting. And it's really, a lot of people think it's the name of the game these days. You see Feels doing it. You see some of the biggest companies in the CBD game now introducing either memberships or subscription. I always think it's funny how they've rebranded subscription as membership, right? Everyone wants to be a member, but not everyone wants to be subscribed. Subscribe means auto ship. Membership means permission, like an opportunity.
Yeah.
I think that's always been really, really curious.
It makes you feel like you're more of a part of a family or a group or something versus subscription, just colder.
Absolutely. I think, and the thing with a lot of these guys, though, getting into the subscription business, there's other things you need to be thinking about with this, right? So we've talked about a few KPIs, AOV, CPA, so average order value, CPA, cost per acquisition, and LTV. But there's other things that happen when you have like those subscription businesses, such as you have a drop-off rate after the first month, right? So
Churn rate.
subscribers, exactly, your churn rate. Your churn rate's kind of like the 5 months, right? But it's like the how many of them are going to fall off immediately after the first month, and then on top of that, there's what they call an attrition rate. An attrition rate is how many people fall off just on average per month. So what we do typically when I'm working on subscriptions or trying to create some formulas for clients of ours, I always create a schedule, like a spreadsheet of here's how many new subscribers you're going to gain. Here's how much they're going to cost. Here's how much they're worth. Here's how long they're going to last. And here's the 50% drop off rate. And here's a 10% attrition rate. And then you can see kind of how much revenue opportunity there is over time and how much it'll cost you to build it. It's really cool. Numbers can be complicated, but if you can nail down, keep it simple, stupid, and focus on the important KPIs, you can really start to get a pulse on your company and scale it much quicker. But I would say really that, in the past, the game of the game was growth, growth, growth. These days, it's far more retention than simply growth. You want to create a long-term relationship with your customers so you can continue having them purchase your products and providing value to their life.
Exactly. And are there any other important KPIs to touch on before we move on to the next topic?
Totally. AOV, CPA, LTV. There's a lot of different ones that people look at. Another one I look at is ROAS. This is probably the most important in my field. ROAS is ROAS. And what it is essentially is return on ad spend, right? So if I spend $1 on ad spend, I think Matt froze, but I'm going to keep going. If I spend $1 on ad spend, and then how much return am I going to get from that $1 on ad spend? Matt, you froze, but I think you kept recording, so I just kept going.
Oh, cool.
So if you spend $1 on ad spend, how much return are you going to get that on that $1 from us? And so typically, I like to see anywhere from 2 to 5x ROAS. That's like my number to be at. When you first start on the ads platform for any company, but especially as a CBD company, a lower ROAS is expected. From the first couple months, we see anywhere from as low as 0.25, as high as 2.5x for the first 2 to 3 months. And then after that, it's really churning at 2 to 5x ROAS. That's kind of the sweet spot. That's where you want to be. And it's a really strong spot. But ROAS is really critical to ensure that you're getting a strong return.
So like if you're 3 months into a ad campaign and you're not at 2 times ROAS, there's a problem.
Yeah. And it can be anything, it could be anything from your brand to your creative, to your advertising management, to the words you're using, or the people not liking your product. It could be a lot of things, but that's an important KPI. 3 months into advertising, your goal should be, you should be hitting 2x consistently, because it's enough time to optimize. There can be issues depending on the case, but that, as far as like a personal goal, when I'm working with new clients, I want us to be above 2x by 3 months, no matter what. That's kind of my my real focus.
Gotcha. And yeah, I'll briefly touch on some numbers for like if you're approaching, if you're going after brick and mortar stores and trying to get into CBD stores or chiropractors or whatever, and you're trying to set appointments with, let's say you approach 100 people, you should be getting 9% response rate from 100 people if you do it correctly. And then out of those 9%, maybe 5 will say yes, maybe 4 will say no as far as setting an appointment, whatever it is. And then once you set appointments, out of 10 appointments, you should close 2 or 3 of those and make those accounts. If you're not hitting 20 to 30% close rate, then you got a problem too. There's an issue there. And that's another thing we really teach clients is a sales process, a step-by-step sales process, because a lot of people just wing it, and you have to track the numbers and you have to have a process so okay, we're not hitting the numbers, we got to change certain things.
I always like that quote, what gets measured gets done. It's if you're taking the time to measure it, you're gonna get the results that you're really after. And and part of that is how people talk about funnels all the time. It's kind of like such a buzzword these days, is funnels. But the key with funnels is you kind of need to apply that mindset to everything in your business, and start trying to get percent rates at different aspects of your business. So like what Matt's talking about, when you're reaching out to new retailers, what's the response rate? How many people respond to that? Once you do talk to those replies, how many of those lead into making a first purchase? And then how long do those people stay on? If you can start associating some basic KPIs to all of these things, then all of a sudden you're playing kind of on a switchboard, or you're optimizing a funnel. And you can start twisting the knobs of each part of it in order to see how it improves. For instance, if you're getting a 10% close rate from everyone who responds, if you increase your response rate by 3% by changing a couple strategies, that will significantly change your close rate. And thus you'll make a lot more revenue. And that applies to retail, this applies to e-commerce, and it really applies to, it can apply to any part of your business. You know, and most people see this a lot with things like email marketing, right? So you see like the deliver rate, the open rate, the reply rate, and then the conversion rate. But you can apply that methodology and that idea to most areas of your business.
Yeah, 100%. So that's good stuff. And even using the lifetime value with retail customers as well, and looking at all those things that you talked about in the e-com side, you can apply a lot of that same principles to selling to brick and mortar.
Absolutely. You know, I always talked about one strategy that I worked on at another company previously, not in the CBD space necessarily, is, well, I guess now they're in the CBD space. But it's we had a retail distribution strategy. And I always thought a genius strategy, free tip, would be if you could do integrated retail experiences that would sign consumers or customers onto a subscription. So rather than like trying to get them onto your site and become a member of your site or a subscriber of your site, if you could meet them where they're at the mall or whatever, and they buy the first product, and that first experience on the retail side actually put them into a subscription, it would be a crazy growth strategy for a lot of these direct-to-consumer companies.
Yeah, I like that idea too. So yeah, I think that's a lot of good information there. And another area that Aaron's really got a lot of expertise that I've seen is influencer marketing. And so we're going to talk about a 3-pronged approach to influencer marketing. Aaron can go over that, and I'll probably ask a few questions here and there.
Cool. Yeah. So when I do influencer marketing, I take a 3-pronged approach to it. And that approach is qualitative, quantitative, and how do I say it? Agency based or service software based. And so let me show you a little bit about that. Most of you guys probably have heard about influencer marketing. It's getting pretty hot, and it's becoming a pretty apparent thing in the CBD industry. And essentially what influencer marketing is it's me reaching out to someone who has some type of platform on the internet. Whether it's on, well, it can not even just have to be the internet. It could be through TV or through radio or a magazine or whatever, wherever it is, as long as they have some type of platform. So I reach out to that influencer and I provide them my product or details about my brand for them to promote it through their platform. This leads to a lot of sales. There's no restrictions to working with influencers. The only restrictions is finding them and being able to make a deal that is a win-win for both of you. But otherwise, there's limitless opportunity with influencer marketing, and there's no terms of service to do so. It's completely just a relationship-based system. So let me give you an example real quick. I really focus on YouTube influencer marketing. I think it drives the most value. A lot of people spend time with Instagram influencer marketing, but I don't think it leads to as long-term of value. If you use Instagram and you get an Instagram influencer to post, after they post, it disappears. People see it for a few days and then it's kind of gone. Yeah. If you're on YouTube and you create a video on YouTube, you can get an influencer to post. And then every time they search that keyword, videos from 2 years ago might pop up. Right? So it's a much longer tail value cycle to do influencer marketing on YouTube. Besides that, the content that you get from the influencer is video content, long form video content. Or it can be short form, but it's usually longer form video content. That is excellent content and a much higher value to me as a marketer than photo content. So this is a company called Monk. I was the chief marketing officer over there for 3 years, and we did a lot of influencer marketing during that time. You can kind of see from here, there's anything from 2.1 million views, 300,000, 14K, 42K. So anything from
5 million. That's pretty good.
From 1,000 to, I think this is probably the highest one, 5.3 million. This is actually a funny, quick side note. I did a strategy where I ran ads. This was an internal strategy of mine. I got it from a great marketer. But I ran ads to people who worked at major publications, and then showed them my videos of my ad videos that were already getting a lot of social proof. And I ran it to people who worked at these different publications so that they assumed that it was just like a viral video coming through their feed. No joke, I got contacted by like 10 different publications all wanting to write about it because they saw our product in Facebook ads.
That's awesome.
This was one of them, BuzzFeed. In fact, they even called me and wanted a bunch of money to do an article prior to publishing this the next day. Anyway, so
Hey guys,
these are all the different influencer videos. And so let me go into this three-pronged approach real quick. There's the quantitative way. The quantitative way is to find different. The quantitative way is to get someone to collect influencers who would be valuable for you. The way I do this for all my different brands is I get a virtual assistant to go through and find influencers who meet a certain criteria, collect them all into a sheet, and then I drop them through an email marketing sequence that tells me how many of these influencers open, how many of these influencers reply, and how many of these influencers end up converting. Very similar to your retail strategy, Matt.
Yep.
And so that's how I do the quantitative approach. And what I do really here is kind of a turn and burn. I'll layer the offers. So I'll say, let's work together, and what I'll do is I'll give you a free product. That's my first offer from my first email. Then my second offers will be things like I'll give you a free product, and I'll give you a commission link. And then maybe a third offer is I'll give you a commission link. I'll give you a free product. And here's a very valuable one. I'll advertise the video you create in order to drive more views for the influencer. What do influencers care more about than money?
They want followers.
They want followers, dude.
Yeah.
If you can help them build their followers and their view count, they're very satisfied.
Yeah, that's a great one. I'd never heard of that one
But
before.
that being said, influencers are getting expensive. They all charge a lot of them charge a lot of money. Big brands are coming in with big budgets and offering big budgets in order to get these influencers for hire. And it can be more competitive. So the quantitative approach: collect a lot of influencers, email them, get down to the various percentages of how are they converting, how many are opening, how many are replying, and how many are turning into influencers that are representing your brand. And then repurposing the content they create as ad creative on with your ad strategy. That's the quantitative approach. I layer that with a qualitative approach, which is where I find 10 to 15 influencers have a really high affinity with my brand, meaning they're very closely related to my brand. They share similar values. I create unique deals with them, and I get them to create content more regularly, so month to month, right? And then those people, I try to create some type of win-to-win affiliate relationship, so they're creating consistent content that drives new value. So that's that. And then I add that with 1/3 approach, which is kind of the software or agency approach. There's plenty of influencer agencies out there. You can diverse your opportunity by working with one of those agencies as well to land you influencers. If you have the budget to go into it and you can hit all three of those approaches, you'll find success in the influencer world.
That's
now
awesome.
The question really is budget. That's the real question. Is it influencers not necessarily so cheap? I recommend people try to come into the influencer marketing game with at least $20,000 ready to set aside for it. You can do it with $1 and just free product, but $20K is a good place to do it really well.
Yeah, I talked to one company recently. They did almost $5 million in sales in their first year with 15 influencers. That's it. Just big influencers, I guess. So, if you know how to harness the right people, and they have the big list, you could really do big numbers with influencers, but you're going to have to pay them.
The thing with influencer marketing is you can drive significant revenue. It's just not always clear how much. It's the problem can be attribution, right? So if you can give them a link or you can give them a code, that works well. But the hard part with influencer marketing is definitely attribution.
That's very powerful info. I mean, it's just about having the budgets and the time and the organization to be able to approach the right influencers and get the deals going.
Right influencers, the right time. Absolutely.